Welcome, heroes, again to another episode of the John and Jacob Pop Culture Podcast. As always, I'm Jake,
I'm John.
and today it's actually going to be a little different because there's not any news this week. I wish we could give you guys some thoughts on that, but there's not. So what we're going to do, we'll just jump right into the retro picks of last week.
Yes.
Give you our thoughts on those. I had the gentleman from you, and then I gave you Spider-Man 2.
Yes.
Not Amazing Spider-Man 2, but just Spider-Man
Yep.
2.
Yep.
How do you want to start? You want me to go? Or you
I'll go.
Okay.
All right. So Spider-Man 2, a lot better than I thought when I was younger. I think it goes to the same lines of like Iron Man 3, that it's a lot more dramatic. There's a lot more elements. So if you're just wanting the high-paced action of Winter Soldier or something that's just like action, 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 it's not really for you. Um, it has brilliant action sequences in it. There's a lot of heart in the characters that are there.
Mhm.
So yes, I enjoyed it a lot more now than I did back then, except for James Franco.
Yeah.
He was a little rough at points. With like,
Yeah.
okay, so
Yeah, especially, well, leading up to the reveal. We can spoil this. This movie's like
yeah.
18 years old. So at a point in Spider-Man 2, he finds out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like leading up to the reveal, and then it's weird. Like he's in shock that it's his friend,
Yeah.
but I don't. It wasn't wooden, but I don't know how I would have processed that if my friend, well, who I thought killed my dad,
Yeah.
who he thinks the Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe from the first movie. So there was that. It was great. That was a great teaser though, and the at the end where he
Yeah.
sees the visage of Norman Osborn in the mirror, and then he smashes the mirror,
Yep.
finds the secret goblin lair behind it, and that I remember we watched
Yeah.
that in theaters as a kid, and we were like, oh my gosh, like he's the next Green Goblin. What a letdown in
Yeah.
three! What a letdown!
So yeah. We're gonna have to do a live stream of Spider-Man 3 and just
Yeah,
kind of digest
that's
it as we go
yeah.
and
Not as
science mystery theory or
yeah, you can for sure. Not as rough as Batman and Robin. There's at least in Spider-Man 3, there's at least effort into it, but that was one of those first movies we could feel, at least this is grasping the concept of like when a studio wants to take over what the director wants to do.
yeah.
It is, from a viewer, you're like, I thought the director had all say. And it's just like, not all the time. And that
Yeah.
was clearly what happened in three, clear representation of that. But in two, it actually, one of my favorite superhero dialogue scenes in all superhero movies is between Peter Parker and Aunt May
Mm-hmm.
when she talks about Spider-Man. Everyone needs a hero,
Mm-hmm.
and it's you can YouTube that because I don't want to butcher it because it's such a great exchange because she kind of hints she knows Peter's Spider-Man without directly saying it.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of standing there afterwards, like taking in what she said. But I think there's another part of him that's like, does she know I'm Spider-Man? But it comes back again to um, episode or no, sorry, Spider-Man 3 when they have the emotional, or kind of emotional scene. Peter wants to marry MJ, and he tells
Yeah.
Amy about it. Oh no, I'm sorry. Later on in the movie, he tells her that Spider-Man might have killed someone, and she's like, "Oh, Spider-Man doesn't kill," but not in like, "Peter, who'd you kill?" Like,
Yeah.
So it was kind of big, but in three, it was kind of like, "Oh, I guess she doesn't know that he's
Yeah. I mean, that's the funny thing, and even like Blaine just said, it's funny how when you watch a movie at a certain age, it changes everything,
Mhm.
and you have that nostalgia factor,
Right.
So like that's with Batman Forever for me is I watched when I was a little kid. They had the Burger King cups, they had all that type of stuff, and
Uh-huh.
so depending upon your age, with a lot of these movies and even Spider-Man 2, it's kind of one of your first introductions to a character, to movies, and that type of stuff.
Mhm.
So
But Alfred Molina as Doc Ock,
yes,
and that's
yes,
another
yes,
one of those
yes,
perfect cast choices.
yeah,
I'm so glad he came back in No Way Home.
Oh yeah,
Um, and then what was great is he got an applause when he first came out in our theater.
yeah,
The tentacle, it comes through, everyone was like, like we all did. It was great
yeah,
seeing him. And the exchange he has with Peter at the end, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, was like he asked him the same line. He's like, Peter, like, how are you? And
yeah.
that was a great scene. But yeah, I think Spider-Man 2. It's kind of a toss-up for me. I want to say it's my favorite of the live-action Spider-Man movies.
Okay.
It's either a toss-up between that or No Way Home,
Yeah.
and I'm still flipping
Yeah.
a coin
Yeah.
about it.
Absolutely. Again, No Way Home, bringing the nostalgia to level 11. You know, I mean, it was the best piece of fan service I've ever seen. So that's where, to me, it's still, until they can actually put a good Venom
Mhm.
into a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
I mean,
We may.
yeah.
There's still that shot.
Yep.
It's a far shot, but we still have a shot.
Oh, I think it's closer than we think.
I know. I hope so. I really
I mean,
do.
they put Venom and the actor
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy in an MCU movie.
I did.
So it's a lot. It's in there.
Yes. So Spider-Man 2 still going strong, and then for me, I had The Gentleman,
The Gentleman, yes.
which is directed by Guy Ritchie.
Yep.
You guys may know from Snatch,
Lock, Stock, Two
Lots
Smoking.
of Barrels. Excuse me. So this was his most recent one. I think this is one of the last films to come out before COVID started shutting down theaters.
Yeah.
So with that kind of knowledge behind it, it makes it really interesting to watch. And I really enjoyed it. It was a cool take on watching a movie where your protagonist is essentially still a villain, but he's not like the most scummy of the scumbags. Like um, he definitely has a reputation behind him, but he has like this style and elegance to where you're like, how bad of a bad guy is he really? Like he has honor and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So he's like the honor among thieves.
Yeah.
And that is portrayed by Matthew McConaughey,
Mm-hmm.
who I liked. He just was Matthew McConaughey.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't try to do a British, and I love that was
Yeah.
built into the story. It's like an American that comes to Britain
Mhm.
and sets up this. He sets up a cannabis empire,
Yeah.
which was really cool to see. Like how that was interesting when they break it down, how he had to do those plans because it's still illegal in England,
Mm-hmm.
and the way he comes about it, I was like, that's really smart because I guess England is less barriers than we have in the states.
I just talked with my wife about this on Wednesday, and yeah, so in England, because there's the landmass is so small, even though you own the property, people can just walk around. They can go through your forest. They can. I just think you maybe probably around like your actual house they can't go,
Mhm.
but the rest of the property is all fair game.
Yeah.
And they can do well. They can walk around. Now they can't shoot your animal, that type of stuff.
Right,
But I
right.
mean, yeah, they can just do whatever that pretty much they want.
Yeah, and it was a great scene when he was breaking it down. He has a character with him in a car, and they're just going to one of his sites.
Mm-hmm.
He broke that down. I was like, that's interesting. I never thought about England
Yeah.
in that way because I always thought it was like those estates would have iron gates, and it's like trying to get into the Biltmore house. It's
Mhm.
like, oh, you got admission, but it's like, oh, you can just roam around the grounds if you want. It's like, okay. So that was really interesting to see how he like set up his empire. It's also a really brisk movie to watch. Like it goes not at too fast a pace to where you're lost on things, although it's a lot of the British dialogue.
Yes.
So I didn't watch it with subtitles, but I can understand if someone had to watch it with subtitles because there's a lot of jargon,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of slang. But again, if you know Guy Ritchie films, you'll be accustomed to this. It was an interesting talk he has with another drug dealer, but this drug dealer is a heroin.
Yeah. I know exactly. I love that line.
In the scene that they have in his little shop, which that scene did not go the way I thought it was going to. It was great. But he brings up a point. He's like, yeah, my substance is still illegal, but like yours is like the killer. Like I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's like Hope Stream. Like you've
Yeah,
killed more people.
you sell poison.
Right.
I pretty much sell a good time.
Mhm.
You sell
Yeah.
yeah.
And I was thinking like, okay, if someone wanted to make a point, like you can make a point.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like in your face about it, which
No,
is
no,
another thing
no.
I like too.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like a stoner comedy Where there's scenes where like, yeah, people are obviously smoking joints and stuff like that, but it's not like how big a bong can we make,
Yeah, no,
and
no,
stuff
no.
like that.
It was very much um, like the scene with Charlie Dunham when so they had to go get this girl, and then they're all doing smack, so they're all heroin addicts, and he gets there and he's like, I don't understand what's wrong with you guys. He's like, when I was in the day, he's like, I would just roll a little, and as he's saying this, he's doing just this little joint, and he's like, we do it in half, and we just do this, and then we're good to go, and so it kind of going in that same respect. It
Right.
wasn't like, oh man, I'm gonna get so super stoned. He was just like, it was very much like cracking a beard.
Right.
You
Because
know,
I think
like
he even flicked it too. Like he's like takes maybe a couple puffs,
Yeah.
and then like he just flicks it in their kitchen. I was like, because they show him elegantly like putting it together. But yeah, so it's an interesting take on that subject in
What
a
did you-
crime movie.
what did you feel about how the way the plot went? Like the way that it started, and then you're like, oh, and then kind of went.
Yeah, there was one scene towards the end where you think it's going to end in a certain way, and I was thinking it was going to go that way because I forgot I was watching a Guy Ritchie film, and but it's in a good way. Like, I
Yeah.
was like, oh, okay, we diverted this. I forget the actor's name, but the actor's talking with Charlie Dunham, who's like a news reporter who's like spying on him.
Mm-hmm.
Hugh Grant.
Yeah,
I forget
yeah,
him.
yeah.
And he was great too because
So good.
wasn't like unrecognizable, but
You didn't think that it was Hugh Grant.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of those guys, you kind of, except for Matthew McConaughey. But even with that, like, you kind of forgot that it was Matthew McConaughey playing Matthew McConaughey, but you didn't think that it was him.
Right.
It fit the character.
And it wasn't like because he falls in love with a woman in England, and that's why he wants to give up the business. It's just essentially to retire. And you're thinking like, okay, if it's Matthew McConaughey, maybe they brought over another American actress, and like, oh, it's a British, and she talks how she would talk, and Matthew McConaughey talks, but they make it work. And I was like, that's okay. But yeah, definitely recommend, especially if you're a Guy Ritchie fan. I think you owe it to yourself to watch this. It's on Netflix. It's funny. The drama moments hit.
Mhm. The only one that I want to bring up is it's like 10 minutes left when Matthew McConaughey is talking about how he's like, I'm emotionless about the money.
Yeah.
But then he's like, my wife.
Right.
You messed with my wife. And like that performance was something that was beyond Matthew McConaughey. It's not the cool surfer dude. He gets intense, and you feel that intensity through the screen by just a little bit of dialogue. And that was actually one of the scenes that I've watched because I think it was on Facebook, and it shows like ads for movies and stuff. And so I saw that, and I was like, I need to watch this movie. It's the same thing when the other one that I watched was when Charlie Dunham's trying to get the cell phone.
Yeah.
That's the other one I watched. I was like, okay, I need to watch this movie.
That's actually a good, particularly kind of intense scene, but it ends somewhat humorously. But it's great because you think it's going to go down one way.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize I'd seen that scene before, but I hadn't seen it within the subject of the movie, and I forgot kind of like how he gets he's chasing a character down for a phone, and I forgot for a second how he did it. And when he pulls out he pulls out a gun, but it's a machine gun, but he's like it's hiding in his coat, and I didn't see it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something that he digitally had. Like he has the strap and everything on him, but it's like hiding behind his leg in the coat. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot he pulls out a gun in the scene. Like I would recommend this. And it's fast too. I think maybe it was like an hour and 50. It's a little under 2 hours, so it goes fast, but not
very fast.
But not at the point where you're like, wait, because the way it's told, the narrative, the way it's told is also very entertaining.
Again, it's like the Snatch was pretty well. No, Snatch even kind of jumped around a little bit. So this movie jumps around a little bit. And that's what kind of threw me for the movie. And I'm not going to spoil it, but you watch the very beginning and you're like, okay, that has to happen during some point in this movie,
Right.
And it doesn't. And you're like, oh, okay, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I got you. You got me. You got me. So
typical Guy Ritchie fashion.
Yep.
All right, so that's our picks for this week, and then as of course as tradition at the end of the show, we'll
Yep.
pick our retro picks for the coming week. So, like I said, we don't have any news.
No news.
However, there are new things in comics that I want to talk
Yes.
about. I have two issues in particular. So, last week it was all about Batman, and it
Mm-hmm.
was all about that 125. Still all about that 125. Love it so much. Can't wait to see more. But I made an error on the writer. I thought he had specifically jumped from DC or Marvel to DC because our friend, or well, you're not a friend of mine. That'd be cool if he was. Chip Zdarsky, who was on Daredevil and is still on Daredevil. There's a issue. I'm gonna just bring it to the camera here so you guys can see, even though it's turned backwards. This is the latest issue. This is Daredevil #1. I just have the regular cover. So he's continuing writing, and again, he just knows how to write good. I think Zdarsky writes really good character pieces, and Daredevil is a character he can really write. So what we have in this issue, this is after actually this event just finished maybe a couple of months ago, not long, but they had this event called Devil's Reign, where in the event, Wilson Fisk, who was mayor of New York at that time, wanted to basically not legalize, but make criminals in New York illegal. So everyone doesn't matter, mutant, just super Spider-Man. He didn't want anyone messing. So at the end of that story arc, um, he Wilson Fisk kind of has like his happy ending, like in the sun, but it kind of sets the stage for this particular run of Daredevil with Daredevil and Elektra, who is a female Daredevil,
Okay.
and that's something that happened before that main event. She became Daredevil, so the two of them are forming the Fist to go after the
Oh.
Hand, which
Oh
if you
yeah.
guys have watched the Daredevil Netflix series, that was a big part in season 2 and also the Defenders. So in the comics, it looks like they're finally going to try to put a stop. So they're forming their own team to take down the Hand. So Daredevil is leaving New York to join Elektra and their mentor Stick,
Okay.
who, if you guys have seen again the show, he was the blind mentor of both Daredevil and Elektra. Um, and basically, what happens in this series is that Matt is leaving New York. He's saying goodbye to people, but he's also putting the fear of Daredevil still in people, like while he's gone, because, like I said, Wilson Fisk has left New York uh, with Vanessa, who again was his love in the TV series as well. So they've gone off, but his son, Wilson Fisk's son, I'm blanking on his name, but he's now the mayor of New York. Well, he's like the kingpin. He's that kingpin,
Okay.
but he doesn't want to do things like his dad did. However, there's a scene in the book or the issue where Daredevil like pretty much intimidates him, kind of like Batman style, like beats the snot out of him. He's like, "Just remember who I am." And he meets up with Spider-Man, and he's like, and Spider-Man just talks to him, like, "Yeah, that's a good tactic. Like, just scare your enemy like that to make sure he doesn't come out." He's like, "Hey man, I just had to make sure like he knows like don't mess with New York like while I'm gone."
Very cool.
Yeah, I can't wait to see more of this. Again, every inch of this was really fun to read, and there's a lot of deep character moments. Like I said, that's what Zdarsky does best, and it's kind of this element. He even touched on Spider-Man. This is a really cool series to read. It was the life of Spider-Man. This is a really cool series to read if you guys can find the paperback or the issues to it, or just get the graphic novel collection of it. But what they did was is that every issue of that series was an era of Spider-Man's life, but it was not an Elseworld story, but it was a retelling of the
Okay.
Spider-Man story. So like issue 1 was the '60s, issue 2 was the '70s. They went to the '80s and the '90s, and they tackled the symbiote story. They
Mm-hmm.
tackled the clones. Excuse me, made that actually enjoyable. Like it
Yeah.
was really cool to see. But it's that same writer. He's he's just knocking it out of the park. Like and he's again another writer I hear that's doing something. I'm first on to like just read it because it's again I haven't been disappointed.
I love how he's digging into a lot of what the Netflix series was doing. I mean, the Netflix series being what they are was some of the most pure and artistic forms of I hate to say superhero genre, but I mean even drama.
Mhm.
I mean it was just so good. So I'm glad that he's finding even more inspiration and pulling off of that. So before
Uh,
Disney's gonna kill it. Sorry, what? Huh? I didn't say that.
Season 4, man. Oh, well, this isn't news, but it has been confirmed that both Charlie Cox, who played Daredevil in the
Hmm.
series, and then Vincent D'Onofrio, who played Wilson Fisk Kingpin, they are coming back in the MCU. They've been a little bit like you saw Daredevil in Spider-Man No Way Home,
Yep.
and then Wilson Fisk Kingpin was in Hawkeye for a
Yeah.
little bit. They're confirmed to still be in the MCU, and it's a character that spawned off of the Hawkeye show Echo. They're going to be in that series, so I might just have to watch that. Well, and Echo was also she was a character that was featured in Hawkeye, so it's not just something
Yeah.
random. There was that character from there, so I might just have to watch it because they're playing both those characters, and there's a rumor that Daredevil's suit
Oh
in
yeah,
is
yeah.
going to be the black and red
Yeah, it
suit,
looks really
and
cool.
just Google image that. It's such cool. It would make me because they did the when they did X Men First Class, it made sense when they did the blue and yellow suits.
Yeah.
I kind of want to. I kind of want to see like a version of the original Daredevil suit, the yellow and the red
Hmm.
from when he first appeared. I would like to see a variation of that. I don't know. I hope it wouldn't be done for laughs. But you look at that suit compared to like what
You
he does
almost
later.
have to kind of do it how like WandaVision did, Wanda and the Vision in their Halloween
Right.
costumes.
Maybe yeah, you could do that.
You
And you
know?
just like Murdoch just walks by some kid like dressed as the Daredevil,
Yeah.
and but of course he's blind, can't see him, but like he like maybe like bumps into him, like feels the horn or something like
Or it's
that.
even close to like Iron Man's colors.
Yeah.
So even if you did, they could do a spin like this is our Daredevil meets Iron Man series, and then it shows the costume or
Yeah.
something like just a fly by night.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'd be down for that.
yeah.
And this next issue also touches into MCU territory. This is the Eve of Judgment, which is a lead-in. Put that. Oh man, I shouldn't have the glare. But this is a lead-in to the next big summer event that Marvel is doing, where it's Avengers and X-Men and Eternals all fighting each other. Why would they fight each other, John? That's a good question. So leading up to this, the Eternals, as it was established in the movie, they go after deviants.
Yep.
Now, in the book, through their own series, I believe there's no, like, at least no known deviants right now, but they looked at the X Men as being deviants.
Okay.
And what's funny is when you go back and you watch the X Men movies, Charles Xavier always points out he's like mutants, the next phase in human evolution.
Yeah.
Well, the Eternals are thinking like, no, you actually guys are astray from humanity. So now you're kind of this deviant path that we can't have you go on.
Okay.
So there is a way to take out the X Men that is in this book. There's a lot of exposition covering, like if you hadn't read Eternals, which I hadn't read Eternals,
Yeah.
it catches you up to speed on X Men. And now, so this is also important to note is that the Eternals used to be immortal. They would it's kind of like how you saw in the movie where they always had copies and copies of
Yep.
like the other one. That's no longer them now. They can't do that anymore in the terms of
So if
comics.
they die, they die.
And they die, they die. But the X Men have figured out a way to become immortal. So that's another reason why they see like, hey, you can't do that. Like you're straying
So
from.
then, how does the Avengers?
They are like the middle ground because they have to like because they have friends on both sides. So they're kind of like in the middle section of like trying to keep the peace and trying to like not have the other kill the other side. So that again will lead into the confrontation, but that's going to be the big focus of the summer for
Okay.
Marvel. So again, these types of events is kind of it's hard to sell if you haven't read, especially Eternals. But what they've done is Marvel now has seen where the MCU, not where it's going, but they pick stuff out of the MCU. Be like, oh, we need to get these characters more spotlight. So the
Okay.
Eternals are one to get more spotlight too. So that's why they created this. They created this event. Is and kids. Let's be honest. Like it's an art form, but it's also a business.
Yeah.
So you want to upsell your characters? Well, put them in this really cool event, and then maybe afterwards.
So, is there any characters that are doing something else during this? Kind of like how you had in like Civil War that like suspiciously Hulk and Thor are not here because they could just
Oh,
decimate everybody. Like, is there like
well, they.
certain characters like
Are,
Xavier's not really here?
uh,
He's on vacation to Hawaii. Well, you
yeah, they
know.
like. There's like actually, it's what they've been doing with Xavier now. What they led up to the X Men with was really cool to see because Xavier no longer is paralyzed. He's walking around, and
Okay.
he has built a Cerebro he mobily wears. It's kind of cool. It's like a silver helmet, but it's got the X on it. And
So kind of
then
like Magneto.
a little bit now, and that's the case with Magneto too. Magneto joined the X Men, so they all kind of formed
Oh.
together. So now they have formed their own nation. The mutants at this point have a island nation. I don't know the size of it. I know it's smaller. It's not like Australia or
So
something
it's
like
kind of like
that.
what they do with Asgard.
In a sense, yeah, yeah, it's on Earth, but only they inhabit it. It's called Krakoa, but they also have another home set up on the moon. So they've got two spots that they have claimed for mutant protection, and they even go to the World Organization, like,
Hmm.
"Hey, truce! Like, you don't mess with us, we don't mess with you." And of course, there's always humans in the background, like the Sentinel programs may or may not be developing, just in case someone goes cyber. But this also is fun too. What I was telling you that the X Men are now immortal, strained from a mini event within X Men that was called the trial of Magneto, where it looked like he killed Scarlet Witch.
Oh,
So at the end of that, Scarlet Witch is still
is
revealed to be
that his
alive.
daughter in?
Yes,
Okay.
it's still his daughter. They kept that continuity. But instead of in the other event, way back, House of X, where Wanda, kind of like how she does in the MCU, she can alter reality. She made reality. Mutants were on top,
Mm-hmm.
and then at the end of it, she's like, "No more mutants." And then what happened after that was the mutant population decreased. They were still there, but not not nearly as prevalent. But as the years kept going, the way they spun into this new X Men was that Moira McTaggart was revealed to be a mutant. Her mutation was kind of like how Kitty Pryde could do in X Men Days of Future Past, where her
Yep.
conscience, like every time she died, her conscience would, or her
Uh,
conscience could go back and she go be into another body, Moira McTaggart, but she could only do it a number of times, and she went into
was that
multiple.
Kitty Pryde or was that Xavier? Remember, because Xavier was jumping conscious. What
Uh,
was that? What movie was that? Was X Men 3 that he
oh,
did
that was
that?
X Men 3. Yeah, at the end of
Yeah,
X Men
yeah,
3, it was revealed he was in another body.
yeah,
Um, So somewhat, yeah,
yeah,
actually, kind of
yeah.
like that, kind of like, but it was her like every time, but she played it out in multiple timelines
Okay,
of like, hey, this happens this way, and she tried so many times to get mutants and humans to be like, she reached her last life,
okay.
so she tells Charles that's why they formed this island nation, that's why they're like, hey, we need to not just for the good of mutants, but just humanity in general, like all creation at some point like gets affected from their war
Hmm,
so
that's
that's why
pretty
they're
cool.
separated the way they are, and it is really cool. I have to loan you the book sometime.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's when Magneto became a good guy because he saw the error of like so many times forming the Brotherhood, just like in Days of Future Past. Well, more so in Apocalypse, after because he saw the danger of
Yeah,
what
yeah,
would
yeah, yeah,
become.
yeah. Yeah, because
So
he wasn't part of the Four Horsemen. He was
right,
actually, yeah.
so that's where they're at now. So
Those movies
again,
went so bad.
it was interesting, wasn't it?
Like Four Horsemen was like okay,
Mm-hmm.
or the Apocalypse, and then Dark Phoenix was like
Mm-hmm.
tragically bad.
Yeah.
Like
I
I sat through Elektra.
Yeah,
I could not sit through Dark
you and me
Phoenix.
both because Dark Phoenix is so bland. Dark Phoenix, and it's like that's what I'm hoping when they do bring them over into the MCU. Like it's not the actors; it was just the writing. Because I feel like everyone was cast well, but this just goes to prove if you don't have a
Yeah.
good writer behind it, Like it just doesn't work. So I'm hoping in this next turnaround we get
Nobody was too young to be not disappointed in Dark Phoenix.
uh,
I'm sorry.
hey, to some people it is their excuse me, it is their least favorite. To them it is the worst. And I agree with that because
Well, that's not MCU though.
no. That's just
Yeah,
that's just X Men movies.
yeah.
But anyway, so this was just the prelude to it. Again, Celestials are going to be a part of this thing. We'll see
Okay.
how that goes. But yeah, this is just the kickoff to Marvel's big summer event. I hope to do because DC has one going on right now, but no, well, they had the side stories come out, but they're having their Dark Crisis event. That's their main summer event, and this is Marvel's. But I say both of these, especially if with the Eve of Judgment one, you need to read that if you're going to get into the Judgment Day story arc.
Hmm.
If not, I wouldn't say pick it up. But Daredevil, I can. Uh, I can't stress how much I love this writing and this style. It's just so much. Just Zdarsky, man. Anything he does, I want to get on. Can't praise that guy enough.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that takes care of that.
All right.
So, man, I kind of went up from upper news. Now we got to go to downer news.
Yeah.
Well, not news, but our main topic.
Yes. The main topic today is kind of MCU Phase 4 and then MCU in general oriented.
Mm.
We are going to tell us which of our MCU movies we favor the least.
Yep.
And then we're also going to kind of try to dive into Phase 4. What we like could be tweaked. What we like, what we don't like, what we would do different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good summary of everything we have planned. You want me to start?
You go first,
Did you
because if you pick the movie that I have one in the chamber that I can easily shoot out.
Mine might surprise you.
Okay.
Out of everything, because there's some of these movies to where the whole scope of at least when the Infinity Saga was going on, that you didn't need to watch to get what they were aiming towards with Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah.
So I judged it off of that.
Okay.
And so for me, to me, the most disappointing one, even though like in most of these MCU movies, just in general, there's stuff to like casting, action sequences, all this stuff. But I gotta admit, the one I am disappointed by the most is Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Okay.
To me, because so the way I kind of frame these things is like, what has the most potential? Especially if you name it that title, Age of Ultron. Now I know there's like a significant like that led to like what happened a lot in Phase 3 with Civil War,
the COVID trials, and gave us Scarlet Witch and the birth of all of that.
Yes. And so there's a lot of stuff that did help in Phase 3, and this kind of was like, well, how would you rewrite Phase 3? You have to rewrite a lot of it. You could, I would still keep Civil War the way it was, because I think you could still rope around that. But what I would have done, so the reason why Age of Ultron is disappointing to me, because Ultron himself is a great villain, and definitely one you could have done a whole saga around. You could have done an X-Men Days of Future Past thing. You could have had this is what happened with Tony, like when he made Ultron, and you could have had the beginning play out the way it does, like have him be like within the scepter was the Mind Stone, but a separation of Jarvis, but like creating this AI to protect the world. You are deviating from the source material, which was Hank Pym design Ultron, but they still kept the spirit of that with this sort of father-son thing, kind of. But you had James Spader voicing Ultron, which was a great voice, a great actor to play it, because menacing voice. But my issues with it is that in that movie they're jumbling so many pieces to make it fit at the end. Like you go with Thor, he goes to the pool where he does see a version of Ragnarok. Just don't get me wrong, like Ragnarok, I would have kept Ragnarok the same. So let's say that phase 3, I would have kept that. I would have kept Ragnarok the same. But it was like, why was that there? It was just like, oh, we're gonna show you something. I'm like, but you could have had,
Yeah, but he kind of foresee what happened with Thanos killing everybody.
yeah, but I wish they would have maybe. You still have Thanos play out the way it did in Infinity
Yep.
War Endgame, but there was this timepiece would have been really cool to have been like, this is your Ultron, a true age of Ultron is
Yeah.
within this timeline. Um, Again, with what they're doing now, with multiple realities and seeing things play out the way it was, I was, a little disappointed. Like, sure, we did get, like you're saying, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, which I thought are both cast well.
Yeah.
I did think it was a letdown when Quicksilver died, but
Yeah.
because the whole time they played it up to Hawkeye getting killed in that movie, it
Yeah.
was
Oh
great.
yeah.
He was like almost every other sentence was like, "I love my family, I love my family." It's just like every almost dialogue
Yep.
choice was like, "This dude, I think he might die. Like,
Yep.
I think he could die." He didn't die,
No.
obviously, but for me, I would have liked to have seen not have them one off Ultron. Um, the
Yeah, but I
design.
thought there's been like hints though that like Ultron's still there.
I guess with the White Vision, there may be something there. Again, that's another. We'll bring that up in the Phase 4 thing where he
Yeah.
just kind of like disappeared.
I feel like you could easily bring Ultron back. Like, oh yeah, he went into every single computer server and
Yeah,
everything. And did he really though?
yeah. Well,
Did
that's
did he really?
yeah, because that's when they fight at the end when Vision like has him in his headlock and he just wipes him out from trying to do that. That was a good dialogue exchange at the end between him and Vision. That was good. I just wish we got that later on. Like
Yeah.
that.
But it's the same thing that could be said about Civil War though. There's so much more to Civil War with all the characters involved than what we got. More or less, I loved the movie, but there are so many different instances that happened in Civil War that we never got to see. We never got to see Captain America beating the crap out of the Punisher and the Punisher saying, I will not lift a finger to hurt you.
Yeah.
You are what encapsulates America, and I refused to hurt it.
Yeah.
You have um, the the moments of Captain America standing up. Well, he kind of stand up in the movie, but you have so many different moments with the X-Men and everything involved in the first Civil War. You have all the villains siding with the government, a lot of to just get hired on because they need warm superhero bodies to try to fight Captain. It also Captain America dying at the
Mm-hmm.
end of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot more. So I see what you're saying. But that's kind of like I kind of view it as like the same kind of Civil War. Like if they gave us either one of those movies in Phase 6 or 7, I feel like it could have been more like Ultron should have been a Thanos esque 2-part movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like Civil War should have been a 2-part
It
movie.
could. That easily could. I just feel like with Civil War, with what limitations they had in the MCU at that point, I think they pulled that off way better than they did Age of Ultron. Um, and it's just because like I'm just it's one of my pet peeves in comics, and we kind of a little bit got this with Gore in Love and Thunder. We have this really great villain
Mm-hmm.
played perfectly well acted, all the chops, menacing, and then but you could say the same with Hela too from
Mm-hmm.
Ragnarok, where you're just like that's my thing with a lot of the MCU movies is that they just one off the villains,
Yeah.
like they would like we used to do like in the old superhero days, like you name Superman, well they kept Lex Luthor around, but like any other threat, like he just took care of, and they did the same with the Batman movies back in the day. I kind of felt we were, and even Spider Man to that point. I just kind of felt like we were over that because we got to see Loki be alive
Yeah.
and still play a big part in the MCU and
Mm-hmm.
still playing a big part in
Yeah.
the MCU.
But again,
Um,
he's still dead. So
yeah,
again,
yeah,
it's
and we did see Ultron bodies. Well, the
the head and
um,
what movie was Was that?
Uh, was it? I thought it was there was the Chitauri head that I'm thinking of. In No Way, not No Way, Homecoming with Spider-Man, but the bodies they had Ultron.
I thought there was a
Uh,
head, an Ultron head
maybe
in one of the movies.
I was thinking. I was thinking you were thinking of Spider-Man: Homecoming when he's going through the when he's locked into that government facility and he's
Yeah,
going through. I was it a Chitauri head? There may have
I think
been.
that was an Ultron head because he picked
I'll
up.
have to
He's
go
like,
back.
ah,
Yeah. I'll have to go back.
yeah,
But we at least saw those bodies in Doctor Strange 2 when he goes
yeah,
to the other one. So to your point, again with comic books and everything, they can always pull from something. I just think at the time, again, it's by all means, it's not like the worst superhero movie. Just to
yeah,
me, was just the most disappointing, just of the potential it could have had.
yeah.
That's my only beef for this. Like if I'm
Okay,
looking at it strictly from, excuse me, a what if potential,
yeah.
that to me was the most disappointing. I mean, I will still watch this over like any garbage like Super because I don't think it's pure because there is entertainment to be had. There is fun to be had in the movie. There are some great scenes within it, both action and character driven. Another thing too, that's the first time we got the Hulk and Black Widow romance
Yeah.
that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Because I remember watching that the first time, and she's like hitting on him. I was like, man, I would have thought you would, because I was expecting Cap from because Winter
Oh
Soldier had
yeah.
come out
Yeah.
before that, and they had this whole not really a will they won't they, but she was kind of like, hey, we're kind of in the same
Yeah.
profession, and I was like, that would be kind of cool. But then in that one, they were just like, she's like, hey Bruce, and she's like nerdy and doesn't know what to do, and then I remember in Infinity War, they just quickly just went through that. She's
Yeah.
like, hey Bruce, he's like, hey Natasha, and
Yeah.
then who is it that said, oh, it's Sam. Yeah, Sam's like, this is awkward, and
Yep. That was the end of it.
that's the end you get. So,
But then she dies. So.
yeah, yeah, that would. Oh, but you know what? With her death in Endgame, you do see Hulk really because he smashes the ground
Hmm.
when he hears the news. So there could have been maybe.
And he throws the bench across
He
the.
does to the bench.
Yeah.
Just to the bench. Yeah. So I mean,
He's visibly shook.
yeah, for sure. I just yeah, like that was kind of a thing too. Like, oh, we will, and then they're like, oh no, just kidding. I'm like, oh, all right. But anyway, that's just my opinion. Of course,
Absolutely.
it's not
Absolutely.
law. I am curious because you were worried we were going to pick the fade.
Yes.
So
Because
I'm
it's
curious.
it's. So I haven't finished Black Widow yet,
Mhm.
but still, from what I watched, it was still more entertaining than this. And I feel like it's the easy apple to just be like,
Yeah,
oh, there's Captain Marvel.
yeah.
You know,
I had a feeling.
I it just wasn't. Brie Larson just doesn't have a likable personality on screen.
Yeah.
She comes off holier than thou, better than you.
Uh,
That even you don't get that with Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man.
uh,
And that would be like the prototypical I am better than you, I make more than like and you don't get that at all. You don't and
mhm.
so with that being said,
Yeah.
I'm not going to pick the apple that is
Throw me for a loop. Okay.
um this I fell asleep during this movie.
Oh.
Um I felt like it was trying to be The Matrix
Ooh.
and did not pull it off. I felt like it was slow and it's Doctor Strange.
Really? The
I
first Doctor
I
Strange?
did not like the first Doctor Strange.
Wow. Okay.
Again, like the whole Mirrorverse and whole changing, it was cool, but it wasn't anything that we haven't seen before.
Okay.
Like it was again, it was, hey, we watched The Matrix Revolutions, and we're gonna make a movie like that with Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Um, it had some cool parts, like with Dormammu and some of the fight, but like honestly, I felt like it just dragged. Like the first little bit until he gets to um what's her name? Um
Oh, the shoot. Why am I blanking? The Eternal one? No.
Yeah.
Uh, the I know you're the teacher,
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
master.
I I was just like, okay, and then he goes through
Look
the
it up.
training, and again, it was like, okay,
Look
you know, I just it didn't really do a lot for me, and so like I think I stayed awake the first time, and then I was like, okay, maybe I need to try it again.
the ancient one.
The ancient one.
Yeah.
And then I watched it a second time, and I fell asleep.
Mm.
I, I completely passed out in the movie theater.
And to your point, even though I like Doctor Strange, I like it more than you. To your point, it's going back to the wasted villain opportunity. Like you have a great actor, Mads Mikkelsen,
Oh yes.
who crushes it. Did you ever watch the Hannibal series, the TV show?
No.
It's a hard sit through because it gets Hannibal Lecter. It
Yeah,
gets
yeah.
kind of, but I mean, that's a character that every actor is kind of like the Joker has their own take on every actor that's played that character. And Mads Mikkelsen in that role,
Yeah.
fantastic because he plays the psychiatrist kind of version of that. And so you have him in this villain role, especially like the fallen apprentice
Yeah.
role that he is, and he's just there to be like, Jerome was the best, and you're like, cool. What's your end game? Jerome was the best. All right, and then, I mean, Dormammu was cool, also voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch. I don't know if you knew
Yeah.
that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's voiced by him. Which that was another thing too. Like, well, you could. Some people were wondering if he's going to be one of the baddies for Phase Five, but
Oh.
it's possible. But
Yeah.
anyway, just to keep on track. It was taking Iron Man, but a magic version of Iron Man because you have the same cocky
Mm-hmm.
character, best in his field, doesn't really connect with people. Has a high and mighty
Mm-hmm.
attitude, but then something happens to him to human him. Um, so in that aspect, yeah, I think at the time, and still, I think Benedict Cumberbatch is a great role. I couldn't
Yeah.
think of anyone to play him, but in that first run through, I could see where someone like who saw it was just like, like it was,
And those things from the previews and everything, I was really excited for.
yeah,
In the comics, I love Doctor Strange. In the cartoons, I love Doctor. I like. I was just. I don't know.
mm,
It fell flat, and in a time when you weren't so deep into all the characters,
mm,
it was a little too early to go flat.
yeah.
You know. So
I mean, it's definitely like it has its trippy moments in there, like the scene where he gets introduced to magic and stuff. Like that's great, but it does that thing too. The training sequences, it's just like your standard, but it's instead of making your own suit of armor or in World War II, like Captain America, it's just, well, we're gonna do it with magic. And,
mhm.
it was interesting seeing just straight no, this is magic being
Yeah,
introduced because Thor played with the idea of like, well, magic inside
yeah,
at the time, and this was
yep,
kind of it's kind of hurt Thor the movies later on because in Dark World Odin is like, we're not gods. We live, we die, and Loki jokes back like, give or take a couple thousand years. And
yep.
then from then on, they were like, no, we're gods.
Yeah.
So I was like, thank you for the clarification.
Yes, yes.
But
I
that was
do
kind of
remember
weird.
watching that, and I'm like, wait, what? You're
Yeah.
aliens?
Or
They're like, no, we're gods. We're gods.
Yeah, we're
My bad.
gods.
Yep. Nope. Nope. Nope.
Sorry,
Ignore that.
that's what we are. So it is kind of funny when I'm wondering, and this is a rabbit hole, I know, but if there'll be like an edited version of that where they're like, or they couldn't have them reshoot the scene, but have it like the audio different.
Oh
Like
yeah.
you see Loki, Thomas just standing there, but then you have like you see Odin's throne, and then you hear like because you can always digitally mimic
Yeah.
someone's voice, so you have Anthony Hopkins, Odin giving a different dialogue to be like, oh, if you're a god, you must be responsible. Almost like a great
Yeah.
powers, great responsibility kind of motif. That was kind of weird, but I could see him doing that just to get the clarification streamlined. But to your point with Doctor Strange, and it was kind of too what they did with Christina. Oh man,
Yeah. No
his
idea.
love interest, which they kind of did it too. Like they made her prevalent, like Christine, but
Yeah.
then it's kind of like the end of the. It was kind of sweet in two, where he's like, "Hey, uh, like all the universes.
Yeah.
We never got our shot. Like we just and he kind of accepts that fact. I was like, that's
Yeah.
that's sweet. Like it's a sorely sweet moment, but it's also a really big character growth. I feel for him. Whereas in this one, it's kind of like your standard. Okay, I'm not going to be a jerk anymore. I do have these powers. Like I need to be responsible with them. So yeah, I can. I'm not here to be like, oh, John, you're totally wrong.
Yeah.
Like I see it. Now again, I enjoyed it more than you because for me, that one was that was definitely a movie I could have playing on in the background. And like if it's a Saturday night and you want something to watch and you got the popcorn going, I think that's. But to the overall theme of like the MCU, it did introduce magic. However, it was a very by the numbers MCU. If you think about it, like they were kind of like getting to the groove of their
Yeah.
formula
Yeah.
kind of movie that they're still going on about today, whether or not you love it or hate it,
Yeah.
Um, but actually, maybe that's unless you have anything more you want to add
No,
to
I
it.
think that's a perfect segue.
Okay. Okay. So now to the other. That was the
Yeah.
meat. Now to the
Yes.
potatoes.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of talk right now. You ask a lot of MCU fans like us, like if there was a survey, be like, how do you feel about MCU Phase 4 right now? And you were given an option. A lot of people are just kind of either meh or really disappointed. There have been some gems. I want to be positive in the beginning here. There have
Yeah.
been some gems. The gems I'm going to specify are Spider-Man
Yes.
No Way Home.
Yeah.
That was terrific.
Yeah.
And I will even give this to. Now I haven't watched every MCU series that has been on Disney Plus.
I didn't watch
Um,
Hawkeye. I watched everything else except for Hawkeye.
I pretty much I caught WandaVision. I
Yep.
caught Loki.
Yep.
Season 1. They are coming to season 2, which they are. Oh, short tangent. They are filming right now, and there's a scene. It's Loki, Tom Hiddleston, Sylvie. I'm blanking on the actress's name. But then Owen Wilson's character, and they're in front of a McDonald's, but they're filming, and they're not trying to hide the logo. I'm just
Okay.
like, I'm waiting for the toys. I'm waiting for the Loki
Oh,
toys,
yeah.
and I might have to be I'm about to push some kids out of the way to get some toys later on, kind of like they did with the Pokemon cards that came out
Okay.
a couple of years back. But all that to say is that I think at least the first those three shows, and then Spider-Man: No Way Home, and for me, you feel the same way too. Thor: Love and Thunder, even though that's kind of dividing people right now, and I see the points on both sides, whether or not people liked or did not like that movie.
No Falcon, Captain, or Winter Soldier.
Oh yeah. I'd
Okay.
have that because
Okay.
that was. I'm sorry, I should clarify the first three series
Okay.
of that, and that was one of the first three that popped up because that was a show. Again, like the others, where I was like, I was invested like every week. Like I
Yeah.
want to see where it goes, especially Loki because now we're dealing the alternate universes. But so the main complaint from Phase 4 is that kind of seems to be spinning its wheels. Now we did have the pandemic that hit,
Yeah.
caused a slowdown for not just MCU but just the entertainment genre, just in general, just everybody kind of was like, well, we can't
Yeah.
release anything, we can't do anything till this, we reach something in here to do. But even after that, I feel Black Widow was a movie that should have come out during Phase 3.
Yes.
Should have been done better. Eternals was cool because you got to see like. Now that's another one where I'm just mad about, but I didn't hate
Yeah.
it like a lot of people did. But it gave you the scope of like, okay, this is how Celestials work, and this is kind of a grander scheme of like
Yeah.
the space, what happens on in that form
That could
of
have easily
Marvel.
been on the bottom.
You're thinking of that one too.
Again, it
For
was.
some people it is.
I
Some people
just.
it is.
It took me, I think, 3 to 4 times over like a month span to finish the movie. I was just like, I watched like 30 minutes and I was like, I'm good. And then I watched another 15. I was like, I'm good. And then I finally got to the point where I'm like an hour left. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gotta finish it.
Yeah.
Gotta push through.
Yeah.
And then I was like,
Yeah.
I like the way that they kind of set up. Was it the Black Knight?
Yeah.
I like that.
And you got to hear Blade's voice at the end of that, which was killer.
So. Yeah.
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 It just to our, I think the main issue is they're spinning the wheel. So you have the series that's
Yeah.
kind of introducing what the Avengers could be.
Yes.
Because again, from Hawkeye, he's retiring from the role, but he's putting Kate Bishop in that role. You have Yelena, who is Black Widow's sister, being the
Yeah.
new Black Widow, and even Miss Marvel kind of being like the well, even though you have Captain Marvel that's out in space right
Should we
now,
spoil that, even though I've never watched any of it?
Miss Marvel,
Yeah.
we
With the
could.
with the thing that they tag on to the end of
And
it.
that thing I showed you
That
yesterday,
yeah.
I gotta find that scene. I haven't watched it for myself, but did you see it?
No, but I mean,
Yeah,
if
good for
everybody's
you.
saying that that's what it said, then I'm gonna go off of it.
Yeah, I mean we can. You want
Yeah.
to?
Yeah.
I mean that to me is like a weird. It's a bright way, but a weird way of doing what. So essentially,
Yes.
Kamala Khan at the end of Miss Marvel, she's having a dialogue, or one of the characters is explaining. Again, I haven't watched it. I just heard the spoiler for myself.
We've not watched a second of the show.
Right, because it wasn't for us, and we didn't want to judge a
Yep.
show where if it's not aimed for us, we don't want to. We don't want to.
I feel comfortable dogging Doctor Strange. I don't feel comfortable dogging Miss Marvel.
Yeah,
You know?
same feelings. But at the end of the series, they just finished the finale, and it was revealed at the end that Kamala Khan has a mutation. And then when the character explains this, the '90s X-Men theme briefly plays. So it was like this was their introduction to mutants in the main continuity 616 universe
Yes.
of the Marvel MCU. Now we saw from Doctor Strange Multiverse of
Yeah.
Madness, it was a variation of Charles Xavier.
Yeah.
So this kind of,
Which, yes, that's another thing that's coming out now is like, because I forgot what universe that was. That was
I can't remember off the top of my head.
6, 8. Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
whatever universe that was, that they could easily just say those characters were that in that universe.
Right.
We are not pegging those characters to be in anything else,
Mhm.
which means John Krasinski might not be like. Which again, I'm like,
I feel like I think they should.
yeah,
I would be. They'd have. I don't know who they'd find instead. I can't think of anyone off the top to play Mr. Fantastic, but
yeah.
uh,
So, but yes, going back. Sorry.
oh
Why
no,
don't
you
you?
did. So to say that the mutants they are coming, it's kind of
Yeah.
now official. It's a little hint, but at the same time, so our point being that they're introducing these characters. So it's like, are you doing young Avengers or is this a new full-on team? But they're doing that. But the movies, everyone has their own good character movie, like Spider-Man: No Way Home, for example. Like I said, that is probably the shining jewel
Yes.
of Phase Four.
Yep.
But they did it in a way they respected the fans. The fan service was there,
Mhm.
but it didn't push the MCU forward as much as it did. It was a great solo Spider-Man film. Like it was set in the MCU, and actually, in my opinion, if you took the entire Infinity Saga and then just added on No Way Home, and I'm sorry, Far From Home, and then No Way Home, capped it off there as your MCU, you'd be perfectly fine. You would be set.
Yeah.
That would be the end, and I'd be satisfied. Like, yeah, there's some things like, oh, we could have seen this is, but if they capped it right there, I think that would have been a great cap.
I feel like all it is multiverse,
Mhm.
and now they're just banging our head up against because it got introduced kind of what Loki was the first kind of
Right.
Loki and Wanda was the first kind of thing of like, hey, there's other dimensions, there's other parallel universes, and all that type of stuff, and like you were saying, nothing has actually pushed it past that point.
Right.
Everything is either completely by itself,
Uh-huh.
or I mean, even so. If you actually go to it, I think almost every movie has something to do with other universes.
Mm-hmm.
Thor didn't though.
No. Thor was the only one.
Thor was literally just a stand. Like it did not do anything.
Well, Shang-Chi, again, that was introducing that character to the MCU, which is fine. You want to introduce these
Yeah.
cool characters. Like, I
But it
get
literally
it.
did nothing.
All it did was, like, I mean, it introduced, like, that mythology into, like, the Chinese mythology.
Yeah.
Which, again, is cool. They did the same thing with Moon Knight, like, introducing Egyptian mythology into the MCU. But it seems like they're widening the MCU, which in itself is okay, but we're
got-
like,
you still
what's
gotta
what are
push
we?
the
Yeah,
boundaries, like-
where are we going?
Yeah.
That I think that's where people are right now. It seems like the ship is just kind of like oh, without going too forward. Like
Yeah.
it is a little bit, but not in that like
It's almost pinging off of the walls, and it's just
yeah,
creating, like you said, a wider path.
right.
But it's not actually going forward at all. It's just multiverse, multiverse, multiverse,
Right.
multiverse.
And I'm
Okay.
trying to think too
Yep,
of
we
like
got it.
what the upcoming schedule is. So the next three movies, I believe, are going to be Wakanda Forever, which is
Yeah.
going to be in November.
Yeah.
Which I thought we would have gotten a trailer in Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
We didn't. We thought we did. It was the Black Adam
Oh.
trailer. That was because you and I and another friend of ours like sat next to me. And we were thinking like Black Panther 2? And they're like, oh wait, no,
Yeah.
it's the Black Adam trailer.
The ship that he drives in Black Adam looks exactly like the-
Wakanda shit.
yeah. So we're like, oh, here we go. Nope, it's Black. What's going on? That looks cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's not what we're looking
It's
for.
not what we're
And
thinking.
they released who the villain's going to be for Black Panther.
Did they?
Namor.
Oh, I thought. Well, I know he's gonna be in the movie, but I thought there was like
No.
another one he was gonna fight,
Is it?
like someone that's trying to take over his kingdom, so he has to side with Wakanda. At least
Who?
that's what I don't know.
Oh, okay. So you're thinking he's a protect. He's not.
Or
not the-
it's like a. He may still be an enemy, but then there's like the enemy of my enemy is kind
Oh.
of thing. That aspect of it, but again, I'm not sure. But I know they introduced someone else, and I don't know too much of Namor, but it's an enemy of him that I think is going to be the main antagonist of Wakanda Forever. Well, which could, again, maybe it sets forward something in the MCU. We don't know. We haven't seen it. You have that. Then you have.
Real quick before that, they're also saying that what if Shuri is the next Ironheart?
No, it's Riri Williams.
Oh, it is.
She's getting her own series.
Oh, okay.
Riri Williams getting her own series. That I think is scheduled for next year or the year after. But then again, so this is kind of an issue I have with Marvel MCU. That's kind of what it is in Phase 4. It's cool to have these shows. No, I love like when the Netflix shows were out. That was cool. Like there were these stories that you couldn't really do in MCU, but they were
Yeah.
still important characters. But it's kind of like in the Marvel comics in general. There are characters, their main flagship characters that you have to have in these events.
Mhm.
But they do pull the side characters
Yeah.
to join these events every now and then, which is fantastic to see. And I would have loved to see those characters. Like we got a hint from like going back to Charlie Cox, Daredevil, Matt Murdock in No Way Home, being a part of the larger MCU, which was like terrific to see. But those characters you can't really do. Well, they're starting to because Daredevil's picked up on popularity, so that's when
Yeah.
we do that Devil's Reign event I was telling you about. There's some you can't do big events around, but that's perfectly fine because
Yeah.
those characters weren't meant to do big events
Yeah.
within comics. But then when you talk about movies, you got to get a lot more people wrapped into it, bring your general audience in, but you also got to make us nerds happy, all this stuff. So, all my point to say is that if like going to Doctor Strange 2, if you hadn't seen WandaVision, it gives you enough, I think,
Yeah.
to watch it. But if you had seen WandaVision,
It
I don't
helps.
think, I don't think like there's a confusion wise level, but because they give you enough to be like, oh, this is why Wanda's doing what she's doing. But it does give you more enjoyment out of it if you've
Because
seen the series.
the only question that would make you think and then make you want to go back to watch WandaVision was when she was like, "Oh, you're here to talk about whatever town that was."
Right.
And he's like, "Nope, don't care about that."
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like,
Which is what they do in the comic when these events happen. They'll be like, oh, you like say you didn't read this character, and
Mhm.
they pull them from wherever story arc they're in their own book from, and they're in this event. They'll say a line of dialogue like that. They'll say something like, "Oh, it was crazy," da, 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 and then they'll put the asterisk like "see issues," da, 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 da. And that's fine to do in a comic book, but in this media of you now having to watch the shows to get the movies, and this is with any form of entertainment for me. Like, don't get me wrong. Yes, we're nerds. We eat this stuff up, but there, even for us, there's only like so much you can
Mhm.
consume without one being fatigued, which is a
Yeah.
lot of people are at right now, and then for your own confusion, be like, okay, I want to make sure my head's in the right. Okay, this happened there. This leads to this. That thing, and it's easier to do it in comic books because you can pick out your character, and even what I was talking about earlier with this, the Judgment Day event, you don't have to read everything to read Judgment Day, you
Yeah.
can skip it if you want.
Yeah.
Now they're in comics, they do tie-ins to
Yeah.
where they'll bring in characters like Spider-Man that's going to have an issue of this event, but for his main series, you don't have to read that. Like you can skip that issue if you want, and just once it's done, he's like, "Oh, that was crazy that event," and then he just goes swinging, saving the day. You can't really do that in this setting of entertainment, but it just for me is bouncing off so much. It's like, okay, who do I have to watch? What do I have to consume? And there's only so much time you can do it with.
Yeah.
Um, so I wish I don't know how you would do it because these characters they are important. They are we're fans of these characters
Mm-hmm.
too. It's just now when the pandemic hit, they're like, well, we can't release movies, but they can make the TV shows,
Yeah.
and they had to stay alive. Like it's a business, you gotta make your business stay afloat, even if you have billions of dollars, gotta make
Mm-hmm.
it stay afloat somehow. Gotta pay all your employees, gotta do all that. It just now makes it more strenuous to enjoy the content
Mm-hmm.
when you have so much of it. And it used to be where we had to wait months in between stuff. Well, now in between the movies, you have this show.
Yeah.
And they was like, oh, this will tide you up. I'm like, no, no, I'm okay. Like, I'm okay waiting. Like, I am perfectly fine.
Well, like you said, so Black Panther's coming out next.
Yep.
And then
I think after that, I believe it's Guardians 3. And then it's
She-Hulk should be coming up soon, right?
oh, the series. Yes, She-Hulk's coming this year, and within the next month or so.
Yeah.
Is this year, but just
Hopefully
for
they won't Sonic
movies.
it.
Yeah, we'll see. But just as movies,
Okay.
that's you have Wakanda Forever, Guardians 3, which I believe it's either spring or early summer of next year, and then I know in July they're doing the Marvels, which Miss Marvel will be a part of that, and then I want to say either late summer or fall of next year we're getting Ant-Man 3. So
Yeah,
those are the three movies.
Quantumania.
Quantumania. So those are the three movies we're getting next year, which I hope. And well, I feel Guardians 3 is going to be the movie where everyone says goodbye. That's that one of the because a lot of the cast are leaving.
Mm-hmm.
The Marvels could push the MCU, and also Quantumania could push the MCU.
I feel like Quantumania is really going to push.
It has to, because Kang is. That's when he was supposed to make his cinematic debut.
Yeah.
But we got it's the same actor who played him in the TV
Good.
show, so it won't be someone completely different. So he'll be recognizable if you've watched the show. But all that to say is like, okay, that's fantastic. You should just build off those movies, and it's like, well, Jake, like the shows. Now I'm not saying they're terrible shows. It was this point in time with going back to the Netflix series, you could watch those. They would hint at MCU stuff, but you wouldn't have had to watch the MCU to watch. Like if you were like, for some reason, Daredevil was the only character you ever cared about in Marvel, you could completely just watch his show, not have to watch anything in the MCU.
Yeah.
Not watch anything and still love and appreciate. Same Punisher, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, all those guys. They played the pocket of Netflix shows, and even in their own shows, you didn't have to watch one. Like when they got to the Defenders, it was enough to be like, hey, I'm this character. I'm this character. This is what happened to me. This is what happened to me. And it was enough to be like, okay, like that completely works.
Iron Fist was so bad.
Yeah, I know. He got 2 seasons too. Actually, let's see. Jessica Jones got 3. Daredevil got 3. Punisher got 2. Luke Cage got 2. Iron Fist got 2.
Yeah.
But now they're all on Disney Plus. And a slight, my opinion. Even though I just mentioned all those Disney Plus TV shows that are feeding into the MCU right now, the ones that I've seen, I really liked.
Mm-hmm.
The one I love that they cannot tarnish because I've had, even if season 4 completely sucks and it just they throw it off a cliff. I had at least 3 perfect seasons, and that is Daredevil.
Yeah.
I cannot praise that show enough.
Yeah.
You know what? He's not my favorite Marvel character just in general, but he's in there.
Yeah.
He's in top 5 for sure. But anyway, all that to say is like I think right now they need to stop spinning their wheels. But it was a rough time for everybody because of the pandemic, and again, you have to do what you can do. But they gotta stop spinning the wheels. They need to correct the course and be like, this is what. Even you go back to the old MCU movie, the first ones set up the Avengers.
Yeah.
The Avengers were gonna fight Thanos at some point.
But even what was also great about those was even with the original, it was still building towards Infinity War.
Yes.
They were introducing all the Infinity Stones like randomly,
Mhm.
but it was still kind of pushing towards that arc.
Right.
While Civil War was like in the middle of it and everything. Um, this is just kind of sitting.
Yeah.
It's all right. You need to stop Phase 4.
Yeah.
Just stop. Go Phase 5 and start pushing a narrative.
Yep.
Because again, everything is just multiverse. So maybe they do have a trick up their sleeve, But to the same point, I mean, are they going to do a House of M to kill off a multiverse?
Okay.
I mean, because that was what happened with the Ultimate Universe was House of M. Was it House of M, right? Or what was it that killed off
I can't remember what the event was, but basically it was the Illuminati of the
the
current.
Illuminati? That's what. Yeah.
Had to make the decision of like which which universe do we keep, and like we gotta keep our own. But yeah, yeah.
So again, but they've already introduced the Illuminati, so it's
Which I feel like again we talked about this. That was that universe's Illuminati. We
Yeah.
can still have our own
yeah,
at some point. I feel like how Adam Warlock was teased in Guardians 2 way back, which we are getting in Guardians 3.
yeah,
It's kind of like it took a long time coming, and you were just hoping the payoff is good.
yeah,
That's all you can hope for. Is just, please, Lord, let the payoff be good. It's like they introduced Hercules at the end of Lord of the
Yeah.
and now the joke is like, oh, maybe in 8 years we'll see him again. You know what I mean? I'm like, I want to see him because he's a member of the Avengers in the
Yeah.
comics. So I'm like, he could be another Avenger. He could
Yeah.
be their Thor of Earth. Like have Thor go out and protect the universe, be that god of thunder,
yeah,
protect the universe. Have Hercules kind of be like, son of Zeus, but he
Yeah.
can be that kind of model like Thor was, like this kind of demigodish
Yeah.
person protecting Earth. Like, sure, they'll have Thor come back, and like if a bigger threat happens, he'll come in,
yeah.
but then leave again. Um, but I don't know. So yeah, to our point, it's just they just need to pick a narrative, whatever it is. Just pick a narrative, and then just keep the ship going.
Pick a topic. I'll be right back.
Okay, so we said that. Um, so now I guess what we need to do is kind of like what we're thinking of is like with Phase 5. What do we want to see in Phase 5? And basically, we've talked about this. We want to see mutants, which we got a little tease at the end of Miss Marvel. How they're going to bring him in is still up there. There's Blade coming in, the Fantastic Four coming in. Um, Again, hopefully just to fight the main threat, like a Thanos type of threat. Now it could be Kang the Conqueror. He was hinted at in Loki, but and in Quantumania, he's supposed to be in that too. I just hope they don't again one off him. Like, excuse me, like, hey, here's this guy. He looks like he's the threat. Oh, but is he the threat? Oh, he's not. Oh, I gotcha. Excuse me, but I don't know. Time will tell. Other things that I would like to see Phase 5 do is how we're going to do these TV shows. So you have them set up these individual characters, like we said, and it's fine to set up the characters. But are we just setting up characters for the sake of setting up characters? Will they be, will they be prevalent to the MCU as a whole, or is it just going to be, kind of a, Netflix situation where it's like, oh, they're just in their show and they may pop up in a cameo in a movie, but that's it. So I just don't want, especially fans of these characters, to just have like, oh, I would love to see them in a movie, but they're only in the TV show and they're just for the sake of a TV show. Modoc, he has his own like Hulu kind of like Adult Swim style show. Um, that would be a cool villain to see. Whether or not he'd be the main villain of the MCU, I don't know. Basically, I switch topics. Like, we've said Phase 4 is spinning their wheels, so we have to have a prevalent Phase 5. Like we have to be like, this is the goal for Phase 5. So Secret War has been
Yeah.
talked about. I don't know if that would be the main course to what they want to go to, but Galactus would be cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
My only thing is that
I
it
don't
would
think enough characters are set up for Galactus yet, though.
no, you because you still need Fantastic Four because he's a big part of their story. I mean, like Modoc would be cool, but would he be
Yeah.
enough to be the head villain of the MCU? Because Thanos kind of was your Doomsday, or not your
You know
Doomsday,
what we haven't
your
had
Dark
yet
Side.
that we need?
Yeah.
We need a like League of Supervillains.
Yeah, you can have the
Like
Masters of Evil. We
yeah,
need a
like
Masters of Evil.
we haven't had
Yeah.
because it's always one particular person. It's Ultron. It's Thanos. It's you know like you said, even the one off movies. It
Yeah.
was the Dark Elf. It was
The closest we got was No Way Home. We almost had
yes,
the Sinister Six.
yes,
We're so close. One member shy,
but like,
yeah.
and even that Sinister Six, it wasn't even like any of like the baddest of the bad.
Right.
So maybe they can give us something with Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
And get Magneto in there and get I don't know, like just give us the baddest of bad. That's like, no, we're sick of the Avengers. They again easily spin it of
Which,
the Avengers. How good are they actually helping you guys?
which I remember Feige was saying. He said this right after Endgame came out, that an Avengers movie would not happen for a long time. Now, what a long time means,
Yeah.
that's up in the air. Is it 4 years? Is it 5? Is it even 10 before you get another?
But still, again, how are you still tying this into the like? You have to conclude this multiverse and build towards something else.
Right. Which I feel this is what it is. It's like sort of cleanup after Endgame, but the cleanup is becoming messy.
Yeah.
I don't know. So how to fix that issue? Again, I think
You're
it's
having a
just
toddler sweep up a pile at this point.
you are.
They're making the pile bigger than what you already cleaned it up to be.
Yeah.
So
we just need him to come out and say like, hey, this is the threat. This is either
give us something.
give like the baddie or like this is the crisis we're in, the situation.
I mean,
And I'd be like, okay.
They could easily do something where it is, all right, this isn't necessarily Secret Wars, but this is the Skrull invasion is kind of the next Avengers event.
Yeah.
And then it's something to do with tied into the multiverse of, hey, this entire universe is infected with Skrulls. We have to get rid of it. They nuke it, and then it's okay. We're done with the multiverse. Now it's Avengers versus X-Men.
Yeah.
Like, because that's the one that really would also be the other one that's like, all right, there's enough Avengers now. You need to. You've had X-Men for a decent time now.
Mm-hmm.
We need some X-Men.
He has said Feige said that they're focusing now on individual characters because people were like, where are the mutants at? And he's like, well, we got to focus on these characters first, then we can bring them in. So
again, it's like you said, it's getting messy to the point where you're giving us a Miss Marvel show when you have all the X-Men that you could be giving us.
Yeah.
I mean,
and there's a ton that we haven't
give me
seen.
a Gambit show over a Miss Marvel show. Give me a Nightcrawler show over, like.
I have a feeling though when they do introduce the mutants, it's not gonna be those because like right now they're trying to wean us off those characters and into because the X-Men there's so many.
That's what I'm saying.
That they'll form. It'd be really cool if they had like, you'd have to have a Charles Xavier form at least the school, but it may not be Jean, Scott, Logan.
How are you not going to do that though?
They would at some point, but I think initially they'll be like, hey, these are these students in the MCU, like characters we like a Jubilee. There might be just ones that you.
So they're going to Deadpool it.
That'd be kind of cool.
He's gonna. He will have to have a comment to be like,
yeah.
Oh look,
Yeah.
It's bad when a Deadpool has more X-Men than an X-Men movie.
Exactly. Well, you know what? At least in his movie, they know they can't get around not introduce or not having mutants in there.
Yes.
They know they can't, and that they're sticking to their guns. Like it will be an R-rated film, which I love because we were all worried when they got pulled over, and they were like, "Hey guys," and apparently there's
Isn't it in production? Or not
it's
yet?
not in production, although I believe the script is being written right now. There was a Instagram photo, Ryan Reynolds. He's just out walking in the woods, but he has earbuds on, and but his caption was taking a break from writing or something. So all of us were like, "Are you writing Dead?" Because he's been behind the screenplay of the Deadpool movies because that's his kid, that's his baby.
Yeah.
And again, if he's gonna write it, I have faith. I have enough faith for him to like, hey, we said we're keeping the R rated. We're not diverging from that. We're gonna say as many swear bombs, like everything. We're gonna rock the MCU. That's gonna be such a flabbergasting moment.
I mean, if they don't hurry up though, Colossus is going to be one of the first X-Men that's going to be.
I could see Colossus being like one of the trainers, like the first X-Men trainers. I could see it. Oh, you know what?
They've got to get the same.
They would put Negasonic's Teenage Warhead as one of the first like students or like one of the first. I'm not gonna say students. I'm gonna say members. I'm gonna say members because they have to pull her. They have to at least because she's been such an integral part. And then
wait, superhero landing.
Really does damage to your knees. Really, it was so impractical. So impractical. But then what was her girlfriend? Yue?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's the best. But yeah, I think they're sticking to their guns. Whether or not Josh Brolin will be back as Cable,
I think you can pass on him.
Think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay.
I know he's going to come back.
Okay.
He said that he's still wanting to do the role. So whether or not he'll be in Deadpool 3, that'll be exciting.
I'm okay if he's not.
You know what's great? Another thing about the Deadpool marketing, because now I have to talk about something positive. We've been so negative.
Yeah.
Was the marketing for Deadpool? Just I'm talking both Deadpools 1 and 2. Because 1 was essentially it came out around Valentine's Day, so they had to do a lot of like rom-com advertisements to it, which was great. I think they even did a parody of The Notebook on one of the billboards in the LA around it, which was great. And then when the sequel was coming out, the initial video before the teaser was Deadpool as Bob Ross.
Yes.
Right? And then they did the toys, of Deadpool and Cable like fighting, but Deadpool was dressed up as Woody, and he was like, Sheriff Deadpool as Cable. It was great. Like, I think maybe he's behind the marketing too. If so, that's some of the best superhero marketing we've had in a minute.
Yeah.
I will say the best though, they can never take away from, was the Dark Knight or their campaign.
Yeah.
Because before Ledger passed away, at that Comic-Con, which was Comic-Con 07, man, I could never have gone to it because I was at that point I was like too young to go. But if you were there, they played on Batman '89 where Joker was like, "Oh, my face on the $1 bill." They handed fake dollar bills with the Joker's black eyes and his red lips on the bills, and they did a scavenger hunt thing within Comic-Con. And then at the end, they released the teaser that showed the bat symbol being broken up by the light behind it, and you heard the dialogue between him and Michael Caine's Alfred.
Okay.
And then the Joker, when the video he first posts, he's like, "Yeah, I'm a man of my word." And then the symbol, the middle of the bat symbol broke and it flipped, and there was a Joker card that flew at the screen. That's like the best teaser of any I'm trying. Well, the Avengers one was cool when they did that at the end of Captain America, because they were like, "Oh, being a symbol next summer." That was pretty cool.
I mean, the lead up for the only thing I would say though is watching the end of Infinity War and knowing you had to wait a year for Endgame. That was the most intensified build up for a movie I think I've ever been a part of.
You know what? And I'll give credit to that. It is one of the better ones because even the teasers, all the TV spots leading up to it, they only showed you the beginning of the movie, and then they took parts from the end, but you didn't know what was out of context.
Yeah,
it was like how are they? And they never told
Yeah,
you
'cause it
like
showed like Ronin, and then it
yeah
went. It was like, wait, what is happening
yeah
here?
yeah it was great.
But I just remember like watching that, and I'm like, how dare you make me wait a year?
Yeah
Like,
yeah
and that was the thing was you knew it was a year. It's
uh-huh.
not like, oh, to be determined.
Right.
Nope, nope. In a year from now, because we've already shot everything,
uh,
here it is. You
yeah
know.
yeah.
So
To that point, uh, all the build up to that was really great because they didn't even give the title away. You can still find the video on YouTube to the first trailer of Endgame, and it just said I think it was like Avengers. I don't even think they called it Movie 5. I can't remember what the title of it is on the YouTube video, but even today they kept the Endgame title out of that
mm,
trailer name, and you because we that was great speculation. Is it going to be called Endgame? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that?
yeah,
And then they at the end, I remember my roommates I lived with at the time, huge MCU fans, the morning that trailer broke, I woke them all up and we watched it all together. And that again, it's a great community thing
yeah.
that brings us together. So yeah, I will say that was probably another really good one too. Was the lead up to Endgame because some people have said that the Infinity War movie was like this generation's Empire Strikes Back,
Hmm.
to where you had an ending you were like, because at the end of Empire Strikes
Yeah,
Back, like, how are
yeah,
they going to get Han back? Like, now that we know Vader is Luke's father, like,
yeah.
what ramifications? How are they going to take down the Empire? Like, but it left it. That movie has a more good-hearted ending because you're like, okay, the good guys, even though we knew in Infinity War leading to Endgame, of course, like Thanos had to be stopped, but it was such a bleak ending. You're like, I don't know how they're going to do it. Like, at least in Star Wars, it wasn't like, oh, well, I'm sure they'll win. You still didn't know how they were going to do it, but at least the end scene, the music, the score is more hopeful because that there was like no big the
Yeah.
Avengers theme. The only time the piano theme played when
Oh
the
yeah.
credits and the credits turned to dust at
Yeah.
the end. That was the only time you heard the Avenger during the end credits. Um, but yeah, that was great marketing build up.
So
So
MCU Phase 4.
yeah,
Let's push the narrative.
yeah, that's all you
Let's
have to do.
do something.
it's
Something.
it's cool opening these things up and without
Yep.
mythology, but you gotta be like, okay, this is the situation, this is the baddie, this is what we're fighting for, this is what we're trying to defend,
Yeah.
this is what we're saving people from. You just gotta pick to it, go, and then even if it's something like Thanos took many phases to get to Infinity War, that's perfectly fine. But
Yep.
at least that was the goal.
Yeah.
There at this point doesn't seem to be a goal, and I
No.
don't. Again, same thing. Don't mind if it takes years to get to. That's perfectly fine. Just give me a goal. To
Yeah.
the point, there's just no
Because
goal.
even after at the end of Avengers, that's when we got Thanos.
Mhm.
It was like, and he wasn't he wearing the gauntlet? It's just there was no.
I'll have to go back and see. I don't. He definitely had his suit on with the helmet. I don't think he had the gauntlet, but he at least had
But
the.
again, it was kind of like, okay, Thanos
Yeah.
automatically you jump
Didn't
to.
say anything either. I remember this was before a lot of people knew who Thanos was.
Yeah.
We knew who he was.
Yeah.
But we had like there was many people. I remember sitting in the auditorium because I saw it opening night. There were some people in the auditorium be like, "Who's that guy?" And we had to be like, "Do you know?" And then, but it
Yeah.
was it's one of those things too. It's a time to share our culture
Yeah.
with people who may not know, and it's conversation starter
Yeah.
right there.
So
All
give
right,
us
well,
give us the big bad.
yeah, give us the big bad. Who do you guys think will be the big bad? Do you think it will be Kang the Conqueror? What would you want to see from Phase 4 going into Phase 5? Like even again, like we've said, so that's just Thanos was in the original Infinity Saga. If even it takes phases to get to, what would you like to see? And we got it on a hopeful note
Yeah.
because I feel like
All right.
yeah
Movies that we do like that we
yeah.
want to share.
Uh,
All right, you get to go first on this one.
So I'm going to give you a good one because there's not a time yet where I'm going to give you an intentionally bad movie to watch. I'm going to give you a historical movie. I should say historical. Comic book historical.
Okay.
That kind of ties into our judgment coming up here. I'm going to give you the first X-Men movie to watch
Okay.
on Disney Plus because not only
You're gonna suck me in a wormhole. I'm gonna watch the first one. Be like, oh, I'm gonna watch the second one. All right, I've got to watch the third one.
You never know. Maybe it
Yeah.
will. Maybe it won't. You never know.
Yeah.
Well, you won't know until next week.
Yeah.
But I just feel like because that historically set off comic book movies today,
Mhm.
what we have now, like the teen movies, and it was the first time you'd seen
Yeah,
that
yeah,
on screen. Like, yeah, you had Batman and Robin. There, it was the hero, it
yeah,
was and the sidekick, but this was a full team coming together
yeah.
for the first time.
Because you had Blade before it,
Yeah,
but again, single.
yeah.
There was no team. Yeah, yeah. I can't wait to watch that one again.
Oh, which you
I
can watch on Disney Plus. Sorry, forgot to add that. It's on Disney Plus.
yes.
So,
All right, my movie.
yeah.
It is. There's an actor that is an Avenger that is in the movie.
Okay. Curious.
It is on Netflix.
Okay.
It is a little bit of a dark comedy,
Okay.
but it is very, very good. It is The Fundamental of Caring.
Oh.
It's got Paul Rudd in it,
Okay.
and I think like the pretty much the base synopsis is um, he he's a guy who is helping out I can't remember if he's paraplegic or he's a handicapped kid.
Okay.
It is really fantastic. Again, it has like when I say dark, I don't mean like dark with the kid being in the condition that he is.
Okay.
But it is very heartwarming. It has its funny moments, but it is again another kind of thought provoking, kind of emotional type movie.
Okay. All right. I haven't seen it before,
Oh,
so
okay, perfect.
yeah. So hopefully this, man, can, yeah. I always like it when yeah. So far, except for Hellboy 2 and the first one, which was Eternal, so
Yeah,
Father Son, but yeah, this is because I hadn't seen Gentleman. He's actually, well, I gave you Peter Pan Goes Wrong.
yep,
I gave you that one that was new. So glad you like that. That for me, that I would have been a little heart not broken, but I'm like, oh dang it, like.
yep.
But okay, well, that ends this episode for this week. We'll be back next week, hopefully with news. But again, we're not in control of that. But I'll have more comic book picks for you next week. We'll talk about our retro picks, and actually, we'll give you a spoiler for what we're going to talk about next
Yeah.
week. We thought about talking about it this week, but there's a lot to it, a lot of moving parts. It's a series that you can watch right now. If you
Hmm.
haven't caught up with it, you can before we start talking about it. Next week, we're going to talk about The Boys season 3, spoilers and spoilers and all.
Yes.
I don't even think we can do a non-spoiler spoiler edition. Like we just have to go
Yeah.
straight to
It's
spoilers.
yeah.
But until next week, we look forward to that, and we'll catch you guys next time.
See ya.
Bye.